Okay, welcome to this little video lesson on how to connect wires. In the lesson I'm going to show you how to strip a wire, how to connect it to a screw terminal, and how to connect it to another wire in a pigtail. Alright, so let's start off. We're going to start off with a piece of 14 gauge wire, and what I want to do initially is to strip off some insulation from the end of the wire. Okay. Now this piece of wire has a little bit of stuff on the end of it already, but it's kind of messy, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to cut it off. So I'm going to use the end of the cutters for that purpose. And those work kind of like a scissors. Alright, so we've got a clean start now. And since this is 14 gauge wire, I'm going to pick the hole that matches up with 14, and I'm going to put that hole around the wire, and I'm going to strip off the end. Okay, so we put this in. And I'm going to take off about a ½ inch, maybe more like 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so twisting here several times, and I push off with my thumb, and I can get that off. Okay, so that's what we have. So this kind of matches up with one of the pictures in your packet today, just showing the idea that you're stripping off about a ½ inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch, and you're leaving the exposed conductor that you can make an attachment with. Okay? All right. The next thing we want to do is we want to make a good connection from this wire to a screw. And so in your packet today you see that the idea is that you want to take the wire and you always want to bend it in the clockwise direction, because when you start to tighten the screw down, you're going to turn the screw to the right in the clockwise direction, and you want the screw to grab onto the wire and push it down really hard and hold it. Okay, so I'm going to leave this up here, and let's take an outlet. I'm going to connect onto one of the screws on the side. So I'll take a screwdriver. Looks like one of these screws is already pretty much backed out. Don't take these screws all the way out, because if you do, they won't go back in. So just back it out far enough so that you can get a wire underneath it. So that's probably good enough. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to get my wire to loop around and make a hook. One way you can do that is take a screwdriver, and you can just bend the wire around the screwdriver. And make a hook out of it. Okay. So that kind of works. And then you basically slide that underneath the screw that you want to attach to. You push it so that the wire is really wrapping around all the way. And then you can go ahead and tighten it down. And you'll notice that as you tighten it, okay, the screw actually pulls the wire with it, and the wire is nice and firmly attached underneath the screw. Okay? And you want to get that all the way underneath the screw. If the wire is starting to squeeze out, that means when someone comes along and they pull it, they're going to be able to pull that wire right out, and then you've got a problem. Okay? So you really have to get the wire completely underneath the screw head. And you got to make sure that you wrap it in the right direction. It's got to go in that clockwise direction. I hope you can see if you wrapped it the other way, what will happen is that when you tighten the screw down, the wire is going to pop out and it's not going to hold. And that's not good. So you want to wrap it in the clockwise direction. Okay? So that's how you attach to a screw terminal. The last thing I'll show you here is how to make a pigtail. And a pigtail is a connection that allows you to join up 2 or 3 or more wires. So there's a picture in your packet that shows 3 wires being connected in a pigtail. You will need to make this tomorrow. You'll have to make 2 of these connections. I'm just going to show you how to join up 2 wires in this little in the video, so it's a little bit easier for me to show. So what you want to do is you have to get 2 pieces of wire. Let's say we take these 2, and we want to connect them together. Okay? So the first thing we do is we strip off the ends from insulation. Again, about ½ of an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. Okay. And then I'm going to strip the other wire. About the same amount. Oops. Okay, now I have the two strip parts. I want to get those things together, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually twist them together in the clockwise direction. Okay, I'm going to wrap them around clockwise, because when I'm done I'm going to put a wire nut on there, and I'm also going to twist it clockwise. So one thing you can do is you can kind of hold on to the wires with the pliers if you like. You just get them right next to each other. And now when they're in that position, you can take your fingers and you can twist those guys together. Okay. If you can't really do that very well with your fingers, you can always use the pliers, and you can kind of grab onto the wires and you can twist them with the pliers, and that works too. But fingers work pretty well generally. Now once you've got the wires, whoops. Once you have the wires braided together, you take a wire nut. The wire nut is like a red cap, and on the inside you'll see that there's a metal conductor inside there. That conductor is going to grab onto these wires, and it's going to pull them together and hold them tight. So you take this and then you screw it on as hard as you can. Okay. And once you can't screw it anymore, you've got yourself a pigtail. You should not be able to pull this pigtail apart, so if you grab the cap and you pull on it, it will not come out. All right, and that's one of the things that I'll be checking on Friday, is I'll be trying to make sure that I can't pull this off. You certainly don't want that to fall off, because it'll cause a problem inside your junction box. The other thing is I don't want to see any copper when I look at this. So notice the copper is way inside of there, and you can't even see it from the outside. So the only thing that's exposed to the outside is plastic and insulation, and that makes it electrically safe. Okay, so that's how you make a pigtail. So in the time that you have today, I would like you to practice kind of doing the three things that I just showed. Okay, I'd like you to strip some wires. I'd like you to attach to some type of a screw. You can use an outlet, or you can use a switch. It doesn't matter. And I'd like you to practice making pigtails, and I would recommend starting with joining 2 wires, and if you have time you can go ahead and try 3. Remember, safety is very important. You must be wearing safety goggles when you're working on this, because when you're cutting wires, pieces will fly, and it might be yours or it might be somebody else's, but you don't want to get hit in the eye with a piece of flying wire. So you have to wear safety goggles. Be careful with your fingers. The stuff's all sharp. Okay, so watch what you're doing. If anything happens, if you get a cut, let the teacher know. But just be careful with the tools that you're using. And of course, when you're finished, I'd like you to clean up completely. If you have any garbage or mess, make sure that gets into the garbage can. All right, guys, thanks and good luck.